Okay, so we're recording now. So good morning again. We're moving on today with professional institutions. So last week we looked at ITIL, and today what we're going to do is look at COBIT. So ITIL, as you'll remember, was originally a UK government initiative that went through a few versions before being turned over to the private sector. COBIT was a similar idea for the US, and they're not exclusive, they can work together. So just as a quick introduction, oh good, they've moved it. There's a good start to the morning. Okay, maybe we'll skip this bit. That was hugely professional, wasn't it? You guys all turned up and then just gone away again. You're all very quiet.
Yeah, we see here.
That's good.
Morning.
Morning.
Morning. I apologise for coming on late. I fell asleep for 20 minutes on the couch.
It's your age, man.
Probably.
Well, that's okay. You've basically missed me having a wrong link to VLE to show you, but I have found it now, and so hopefully. So we're just saying, last week we looked at COBIT, this week we'll look at ITIL, this week we're going to look at COBIT. So here's a quick introduction to COBIT for you.
Today, I want to briefly introduce you to the value that a Governance of Enterprise IT, or GITE system, can bring. GITE is a discipline concerned primarily with organizing the resources of an enterprise for the purpose of satisfying stakeholder needs and creating value. It brings alignment between high-level strategic objectives with operational level activities and work outcomes. What does that mean in practice? In short, successful implementation of GITE ensures that IT activities and programs are fully in line with the larger organizational goals, so that IT is working to optimize the business strategy and is part of the solution rather than the adjunct participant in an organization's success. Evaluate, direct, and monitor. These key elements make up the activities of GITE and are what enterprise leaders focus on. GITE initiatives must take a balanced and holistic view of the 5 GITE.
And I'll just pause there to remind you, evaluate, direct, and monitor, which sounds very much like the principles that we've been looking at in other places, PDSA, continual improvement, all that kind of thing. I want you to look out for these kinds of things where there are crossovers with what we're doing elsewhere, and also have a think about how that might fit in with the report that you're creating.
focus areas: strategic alignment, risk management, value delivery, resource management, and performance measurement. Successfully implementing GITE depends on several factors: change management, communication, proper scoping, and identification of achievable objectives. The outcomes of a successful GITE implementation produce both shorter-term tangible benefits, such as reduced cost, and longer-term benefits, such as enhanced management of IT-related risk. Initially, for an enterprise to implement a new GITE system, commitment must be secured from the highest levels. GITE implementations can only succeed when the C-suite, board of directors, and others of the highest authority drive the need for it. After commitment to implementing GITE is in place, the real work begins. A project team must be assembled, and they should take ownership of getting the appropriate GITE elements in place. This implementation team should then develop a project plan based on the 7 implementation phases from the COBIT 5 implementation guide. One of the earliest actions the project team will undertake is selecting a framework. A GITE ecosystem should include multiple frameworks, best practices, standards, and bodies of knowledge. Managing these multiple models can be a daunting task, which is why COBIT 5 is the preferred model at tying in all of the industry tools into a single integrated framework. A short list of these tools include ISO standards, such as ISO IEC 38500, the governance for the IT organization. ISO IEC 27000 for security. ISO IEC 20000 for service management. And ISO 31000 for risk. Frameworks such as COSO, or the Committee of Sponsoring Organizations of the Treadway Commission for enterprise controls. ITIL, or the IT Infrastructure Library for service management. TOGAF, the Open Group Architecture Framework for enterprise architecture. PRINCE2, projects in controlled environments. And finally, bodies of knowledge such as the PMBOK, or the Project Management Body of Knowledge. Determining what the enterprise needs is done through a examination of stakeholders. Determine all enterprise goals that follow. These enterprise goals will make clear what resources or enablers will be required. The key is to plan the work and then work the plan. First, establish an implementation plan and secure approval from the highest level of authority. This acts as a project charter and provides authority to the project team members in conducting the implementation. This authority is necessary because resources will be needed from various areas in the enterprise, and their superiors must be committed to their availability. Then, follow the implementation plan, delivering on milestones and creating project continuation or departure points. Use appropriate tools such as the COBIT Goals Cascade and RACI charts in determining how strategic goals and stakeholder objectives will be satisfied. Apply the framework as broadly as the enterprise needs. Finally, you need to manage the change. Consider whether there are multiple frameworks or sets of standards in place in the enterprise. If there are, plan for their integration into the overarching framework. Consider which framework is the most appropriate for GITE over IT resources. As you plan, work, and manage change, you need to understand the difference between available and necessary resources. Enterprise resources need to tie processes into the internal control environment, which will likely have risk and controls detailed against a control matrix of control designs and control objectives. Plan to provide detail on how control objectives can be made from governance and management practices. Be careful to provide only the level of GITE detail that the enterprise needs. In particular, define domains, processes, and practices only to the extent that the users and the enterprise need them. Be mindful that a common language is an important aspect to a successful framework implementation. As you can see, an enterprise has much to gain and very little to lose from implementing a GITE program. In doing so, the enterprise's IT department will be more closely aligned with larger enterprise goals and will likely experience lower costs, greater control, and overall increased efficiency and effectiveness.
Okay, so I hope you're seeing a whole load of crossovers with the things that we've done up until now. And even in that video, it was talking about other things like ITIL, and perhaps also about other things that you've been covering in other modules. Are you, for example, looking at Prince 2 in other modules?
No, I think so.
No? Are you going to be doing a module on project
No.
management?
Not for this semester.
But maybe next semester?
Yeah, we're not sure yet.
I honestly don't even know. We should know because it's probably up, but I don't honestly know.
Okay, well, it's about project management, and I suspect if you do anything at all talking about project management, Prince 2 will be in there. So again, it's this idea about having frameworks to show you the best practice, the best way to do things. And it means that as you're creating projects, as you're going through them, as you're making choices, you have got a clear framework for doing so. COBIT, of course, is another one, but as you saw from the video, it's a business-focused one. So I've been saying this all along, that part of the reason we're doing this is to remind ourselves that IT is there to serve the business. If the business didn't exist, there'd be no need for us to set up our networks or do the computer support or set up the software or implement all the networks or whatever it happens to be. So in order to ensure that there's this link between what the business is doing, what the business is going to be doing, new projects, new implementations, and how IT will go towards helping with that, ITIL and COBIT have come up with ways of approaching it. And as I say, you probably saw from the video that these things are very similar over the different types of frameworks. If you have something like this, it means that you can look at your whole IT infrastructure as one holistic piece of equipment. See how it fits in to all the other processes and businesses and people and all the other things that go into making up your organization. So it means that IT stops being an add-on and becomes an integral part of what the business does. And that's actually really important, because a moment's thought will tell you how important IT is to any organization these days. You just have to look at the last 6 months. Anyone who had a good IT infrastructure, a good understanding of how the business worked, and could easily transition to working in different ways, fared far better than those who had a very fixed approach and could not change easily. It's really important that IT is integrated into the business, and it's really important that that becomes part of the business and not, as it's so often seen, as simply a cost. So you'll see as you get out there that IT is becoming one of the things that starts to end up on, for example, the board of a company. So traditionally there's been chief executives and chief financial officers. Now quite often you're seeing CIOs, chief information officers, those whose job it is to oversee all of the information systems. IT is then embedded into the business, and the business then guides how IT will develop. And it's important because for many years it's been the other way. I've been guilty of it myself. I like computers, I like software. So when the best, biggest, brightest thing comes out, I'm really keen to get it and play with it and use it. But that doesn't mean that it's the right thing for the business. And that's okay if what it means is that 25 years ago, for the company that I worked for at the time, I bought an Apple Newton to try and integrate it into some of the systems that we had. If you don't remember the Apple Newton, it was a very early PDA. It had handwriting recognition, and it looked like that. So my plan was to allow the people who are working in my organization to have these, to allow them to enter information wherever they were. That would then connect into the network and the data would be automatically uploaded and all that kind of stuff. And I still like the idea. In fact, things like that happen now. But when I spent the best part of £1,000 on just one of those nearly 30 years ago, it just wasn't ready. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed playing with it, had a great time. But it didn't help the business. It didn't get anywhere. And looking back on it, I was swayed by the fact that I wanted to play with new stuff. So we have to be, what we do is we set up IT to support the business and not the other way about. So COBIT approaches this in a way that splits it up into different parts, into different areas. They call it the domain model. And again, we saw things like this last week in ITIL, and we've been talking about the concepts before. So it's talking about planning and organising the IT. You don't just jump up and spend £1,000 on a PDA because you think it will work well. You plan it, you understand it. And only once you've done that and you've organised how it would go up, do you then acquire it and implement it. Only once you're sure it will work, only once you have all the things in place to make it happen. Sorry, somebody was flashing there. Does somebody want to come in?
Sorry, it might be me picking up my juice. I'll mute myself in a second.
No, you're fine. It's just when it comes off on my screen and whoever's speaking flashes at me, so I can see that somebody was trying to come in. I didn't know if I'd spoken over someone or if it was just a click on the microphone or something. So you acquire, you implement, you deliver, you support, you monitor, you evaluate, and you go around again. So again, the same sort of thing that we're seeing before. And I think last week with ITIL, we had 37 different items that it looked at. COBIT has 34 of them. So again, you might want to look at ITIL, you might want to look at PDCA, and you might want to compare and contrast. When I say you might want to, what I'm suggesting is that you do that and you bring that out in your report. As with all of these frameworks, it aims to ensure that the implementation and use of IT becomes smoother, more linked to the company, and ensures that you comply with all the regulatory facets that exist. And we've again mentioned this before, the idea that if you have a checklist somewhere that says, yes, I have to put all of my IT equipment, I have to retire in accordance with the waste electrical regulations. And you can say, yep, well, when we got rid of this, we gave it to this company, and here's a certificate that shows they comply with that. We've done our bit. So it ensures compliance. No, I'll take that back. It doesn't ensure compliance. It gives you a framework to help you ensure compliance. It helps you keep all your information in one place so you're not phoning round. If you get rid of a computer, who was responsible for keeping the data about that? Was it the person whose desk it was on? Was it the department that they worked in? Is it the IT department that support it? Is it the facilities management department that are responsible for going and picking it up and taking it out of the building? Who was actually responsible? So if you can keep all that information management in one place, that's really helpful. And if you keep all that information, stuff that you have, stuff that you're using, stuff that you're not using, it gives you a far clearer idea of what you need and what you don't need. So rather than it being down to someone going, yeah, I think we need a new set of routers. Well, you can go find the information. You can say, yeah, okay, well, we have a dozen routers. And looking at the output, we can see that they are usually on a 40% utilization. And there is negligible packet lag on those routers. They are 2 years old and they cost us $3,000 a piece when we bought them. Tell me again why you're putting in a new router. And the answer is because you've seen a fancy new router and it's got some nice new functionality and you feel like that's a good idea. But sometimes you just don't need it. Sometimes you'd be better keeping that money and using it to put into other areas of the business, even other areas of IT. So it helps us lower our costs and focus in on what it is we actually need and actually what we want to do. And to do that, it provides us with a framework, a way of organizing everything by those domains that we spoke about earlier. Importantly, though, they don't just sit on their own. It's not just creating paperwork for the sake of creating paperwork. It's about understanding the stuff and linking it to the business. Why is it we have this? Why is it we do it this way? What's it doing for the business? I'm getting a message on my screen that my Wi-Fi is poor. Are you still hearing me okay?
Yep.
Yes, you're okay.
Okay, thank you. And because we want to link it to the business, one of the things that COBIT does is changes the language. So we're sitting in a room with other IT people. We're happy speaking IT. And actually, in another room, there's a whole bunch of business people chatting to each other, and they're happy speaking business. At some point, those languages have to come together. And there have to be people there who understand both sides of that equation and can provide a way that those things can be matched up that's accessible to both sides. So understanding this stuff and implementing this stuff isn't just good for the business, it's good for you. Because it gives you a clearer understanding of the business and it makes you the person who people come to understand both sides. And that's a really powerful position to be in. You stop becoming the IT guy in the corner and become a core part of the business. So understanding everything that's going on, mapping it all together, being able to disseminate that. So we're back to communication again. And keeping control of all these processes, how they're running, how they're getting better, monitoring, all that kind of stuff is in there and helps you create a better system for your company. So it comes down to those domains again: plan, organize, acquire and implement, deliver support, monitor and evaluate. So we understand what's going on with our processes, we understand our objectives, what we're trying to get to, not just for IT, but for the business. It brings in all of those people who are responsible for ensuring that this stuff happens. Because it isn't just down to you, there's a whole pile of people involved. For a large organization, if you want to buy some cybersecurity software, well, you have to get the board to believe that cybersecurity is an issue. You have to get the head of IT to believe that software in this particular package is the best way to approach it. You have to get heads of other department to sign on and understand that with this new software coming in, processes in their business will have to change, how they work will have to change, updates will have to be performed to their computers. You have to get procurement involved to try and find the best cost for this. You've got all the IT department, all those people who are going to roll it out, all those people who are going to support it. All of those people need to be involved, and all those people need to understand the outline of how this is going to work and how they're involved and what their responsibilities are. And of course, as we've said before, it doesn't stop there. Because once it gets in, once it's working, you then have to monitor it and understand if it's working well and deciding what you might have to change, figure out where the problems are. If a new cybersecurity threat comes in, you might have to update the software, add in new software, change processes so that it gets around that problem. So it's again about monitoring and updating if required. So you're seeing the same things happen over and over. All of these things, although they're different, have the same basic underlying principles. Understand what it is that you want, plan how to get there, implement it, check whether you've achieved your objectives. If you haven't, tweak it until you have. And once you have reached your objectives, make new ones, make better ones, faster ones, bigger ones, and keep tweaking and keep getting better. Any questions about that?
No.
No.
No from me.
Okay, one more thing then.
Many people have heard about COBIT, but don't really know what it provides. Today we'll ask an expert to answer the question, what is COBIT exactly?
So before I explain what COBIT is, let me just explain why we created COBIT in the first place and what the purpose that it solves. And also just to explain the nature of IT in organizations these days. IT is pretty well part of every business activity and is pervasive across all of our organizations. And the odd thing is that success in a business is driven mostly by the business processes that they follow. And that's a given in most organizations. People know how to set their goals, organize their activities, and drive quality into the delivery of their products and services. Oddly, with IT, that's generally not the case. Unfortunately, IT is often not successful things can go wrong. And then the consequence, of course, is that if IT doesn't go well, then the business won't go well. What we tried to drive into the COBIT thinking was how to enable enterprises to apply the same mentality that they do to their normal business activities to the world of IT, not treat it as a strange black box, but to work with it just like they would any other aspect of their business. So COBIT provides guidance on how to organize the activities that relate to IT within all business activities properly and reliably. Because at the end of the day, management want predictability and reliability and certainty so that they know things will happen as they expect them to happen. So what actually is COBIT? What does it consist of? Well, broadly, there are three key parts. Firstly, there's a model, a process model, that helps enterprises understand the nature of all these activities that relate to IT and how to organize them in such a way that they can be reliably performed and understood by all the people that need to be involved with that. So things like managing a change, defining a strategy, or even something operational like running the service desk is done in such a way that it's clear what that process should do, how it's organized, and who should take part. Then the second part is making sure that those activities and those processes perform properly and adhere to what we call best practice or good practice. So the COBIT approach is to provide guidance on what to do in each of these processes in alignment with recognized good practice. And this is not at the very detailed level of technical design and actual procedure, but it's emphasizing what's important to do and what needs to be done to make sure those processes work well. And then the third part of the COBIT approach is to give management tools so that they know whether or not this is actually happening in practice. And this is done in two ways. One is to measure the quality of those processes using what we call capability maturity techniques, so that management can tell whether or not a process is actually at the level required for a given situation. And of course, this depends on the environment and the nature of the business and how significant IT really is. And also tools to clearly set objectives around what IT needs to do to drive good results and successful outcomes. So setting goals and objectives and then being able to monitor those with quality, easy to understand metrics. So that's the third part of the COBIT approach. So just remember, success doesn't happen by chance. Enterprises don't do well by accident. As Gary Player once said, the more I practice, the luckier I get. It's really down to doing things well, doing things reliably, and management being confident that outcomes will happen as they expect. And that's what COBIT is there to provide. Provides good process, good objectives, and good practice, and tools for management to make sure it will happen.
Okay, any questions about that?
No.
No.
Nope. Right. So, as I said earlier, what you should be doing now is starting to think about these frameworks: ITIL, COBIT, ISO 2000, ISO 20000, ISO 31000, how they all fit in, how they all use PDCA, and how that helps the business. And the reason you should be doing that in tutorial is so that that then feeds in to your final report. Okay, if nobody has any questions at the moment, I'm going to stop the recording.